Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon from EnableSoft. My name is Aaron Boltman, the SVP of Operations, and with me today I've got Kyle Seitz, who's the support team leader. And today we're going to be speaking to you about what's new in FoxtrotOne version 9. Now, before we get started, I want to mention to everyone that the phones are muted. If you do have a question, you can post it to the question panel of the GoToWebinar window, and we'll be sure to answer those during the Q&A session at the end of the call today. Our call today is scheduled for an hour, so we're going to fill that time with a lot of great discussions, and if it runs long, we'll dismiss everyone at the hour mark and give you an opportunity to hang around if you want to learn a little bit more or answer some more questions and see features in more in-depth detail. So I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. He's going to go ahead and demonstrate some of the new enhancements that we have in version 9. And then at the end of the call, we'll let you know how you can get this and when you'll get it and all that kind of stuff. Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Good. Thanks, Aaron. It's good to see some familiar names for those of you who know me or have talked to me, and for those of you who don't, hopefully we'll be talking real soon. I'm going to start with enhancements that have been made to version 9, and then we'll get into some new features. So first off, version 9 uses 10% less memory and 40% less resources, so it'll keep your script running faster for longer. One of the things you might notice when you open up version 9 is this handy little search menu up at the top. Now, you've always had the opportunity to search for something by clicking the magnifying glass up here, but we made it a little easier to search for, perhaps every time I use the word emulators. So we can see I got a task and an action that uses the word emulators. We've improved our import capabilities. So previously you've been able to import data, tasks, file templates, lists, and variables. But you can now import any kind of connections, an emulator connection, an Excel connection, and a FTP connection, which we'll dive into a little later. The import process is going to work the exact same. You'll just choose the script that has that connection that you want to import, and you'll go ahead and import that directly in. One of the first things I wanted to talk about is our improved if statement. So previously, if you wanted to copy a value out of a text box, you would have to use the copy data action and then use our non-interactive if statement down below here to determine if it meets some criteria. We've made it easier because now you can do that in just one quick action to determine if the target's text. And the way we do that is we'll drag and drop like we normally do. And we'll go right to our if statement. And we're going to choose the target's text. So I can evaluate what the text is of that particular target. And I have all my same comparison criteria as I'm used to seeing. Another one of our newer enhancements is the clear variable action. You might have witnessed this before, where if you have a couple of different variables, and say you want to clear all but one, what you actually have to do is use a clear variable action for every single variable. We've consolidated that action into one clear variable. So now what you can do is you can choose the variables you want to clear, the variables you don't want to clear. If you say clear all except the ones that are selected, or you can clear all variables. So it makes it a little easier because you only have to create one action to clear 2, 5, or all of your variables.
Thanks, Kyle. The clear variable action that he just demonstrated, one of the main reasons why we put that in is because as we spoke with our beta testers and the users who called in for assistance with their scripting, oftentimes you'd have 10, 20, 50, even 100 variables that you needed to clear. And it was very inconvenient to have a separate clear variable for every one of those. So by consolidating that to a single action, not only can you do it in one step, but it also makes it easier because you can choose to clear all the variables except for a handful of them. And as you know, you might have a variable that contains, your password to log into the system. That might not be something you want to clear. You want to clear everything else. So that's why we added that, because we had many requests for that. Everyone said it was difficult to use, so we made it easier for you.
Thanks, Aaron. Another one of our enhancements are building file templates. So previously, when we built a file template, you would have to add one item at a time. So let me go ahead and give a template name and some kind of file path here. Going forward with version 9, all I have to do is click Manage Items to choose what I want in my file template. So previously, if you wanted everything from your spreadsheet, you would have had to choose one at a time. Well, if I want everything, all of my variables, I can just bring them all over at once. If maybe I brought too many of them over, I can pull some back. You still have the opportunity to add all of your tokens that you're used to seeing. So it's a lot easier just to bring them all over. Click OK. And I was able to successfully build a file template in just a couple of seconds there.
So as you guys know, for those of you who have used file templates before, it would take maybe 3 or 4 minutes to set up a file template if you had lots of fields. So as you saw, Kyle just built a file template in a few seconds. So it's much easier to build those templates. The last thing we want to do is make it lengthy for you to have to build your scripts. So we're constantly on the lookout for how we can shave that time down so that you're building scripts faster, so you can build more scripts and get more things automated.
Okay, our next enhancement here is to the email action. Now, it was actually a pretty popular request to be able to add attachments into emails, which we can now do. So you still have your to and your copy, your subject, so you're used to seeing. We've also included more options to where you can also add a blind copy field or reply back to a different email. Down below, you can add a priority if you want the email to be high importance or normal priority. And any special formatting options if you want to add HTML into it or just have plain old text. The attachments, just like as if you were attaching an email off of Outlook or Gmail, you can bring up your file browser and browse out to it. We also have the expression builder out here if you have that file name saved somewhere in a variable or something like that. Our next enhancement was to the delay action. So previously, you're only able to delay in increments of half of a second. Well, sometimes that would add unnecessary time to your script. So now, if you want, you can add minutes at a time to your script, seconds, or even milliseconds. If I only want my script to pause for a quarter of a second, I have that opportunity to do so. And the last enhancement I want to talk about here is the screenshot enhancement. Screenshot is it was called the capture image. We've renamed it to screenshot. And previously, you've only been able to save as a bitmap picture, which is a larger file size. You might not, if you're taking pictures, doing some application monitoring, you might not want a larger file size all the time. So here you can make it a JPEG, make it a PNG, a GIF, essentially just make it a little bit smaller. You can resize the image if it's something that you want to make a little bit larger to see easier. We can add notes and watermarks. The notes will be expressed kind of like a Polaroid, and I'll walk through kind of what those look like. And a watermark will just put like a watermark essentially on the picture itself, so that you can label it confidential or put your institution name on there. You can make any font changes, of course. We can convert the picture to grayscale to reduce file size, and we can also add a delay before taking that snapshot. So here, I'm going to walk through a couple of different snapshot options. So that's just a plain old snapshot. It doesn't have anything special about it. It just took a picture of my name up there at the top.
Now, Kyle, that screenshot looks like it was bigger than what was actually on the screen. Did you use the resize feature to blow that up?
I did. I think I made it maybe 150%, so it's a little bit bigger. Now, taking the same screenshot and adding a note to it will look something like this.
So this is really a neat feature, because a lot of you have said, hey, EnableSoft, we're taking pictures of maybe an account in the system, maybe it's a medical record or whatnot, and we need to be able to include some information about the screenshot with that picture. And a lot of you have said, we can go ahead and name the file, maybe the account number or the person's name or social, but there's a couple things wrong with that. The first is, someone could rename the file and we would essentially lose that information, the identifying information. Well, by logging a note on the picture, it actually becomes part of the picture. And as Kyle described it, it looks like a Polaroid, right? You've got the white border around the picture with a little spot on the bottom, but instead of a Sharpie and you handwriting the note, Foxtrot is printing that information there. And of course, you can make that text dynamic. You can put in the account number that you're on. You could put a date and time stamp on that. So it's a really handy feature if you want to document information about the picture directly in the picture.
And then the last one I have here is adding a watermark. So it's a little bit of a slimmer picture, but you can see we've inserted a watermark behind it. I think that was pretty much it for the enhancements, so we can kind of dive into some newer stuff out here.
So as you know, we enhance existing features all the time. Some of the things, really all the things Kyle has covered up to this point has been existing features that we've made better. Well, now we're getting into kind of the next category, which is the fun part for us. We get to kind of show you some of the brand new features that you've never seen before. Those of you who beta tested our new technology early may have seen this, but we're excited to bring this to all of our customers. All of this stuff is brand new. It's directly designed based out of the feedback we received from you. So we're excited to show you some of these new things.
Before I talk about the formulas, we've added a bunch of different new expressions in the expression builder. So if you're running a script in TestBank and you need some random first names or something like that, or genders even, we have these out here in the random section. We've also added the calling task. So if your script is calling different tasks, we'll let you know what task called upon the current task that you're in. We've also added whether or not the project is running. If it's running, is it running in silent mode, which means is Foxtrot visible or not? And I think run speed is a new one too. So what speed is the script running at? We've added quite a few tokens to the date and time section. So we have a whole new section of, is day. Is it Monday? Is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? Which display a true/false on what the day is. We've also added, is it a weekday? Is it a leap year? Next month's year. So if we are in December, next month's year would be evaluated as 2015. We have previous month's year too, which is if it's January, it would be evaluated as the previous year.
So many of you have called us for help trying to figure out how in the world do I calculate what last month was. And so we would show you how to do that. We have the tools to do that, but it wasn't really all that easy. So we thought to ourselves, well, why don't we just give that to you in an easy point-and-click list? So that way you don't have to worry about how to figure out how to get to it. We'll just give it to you at your fingertips. And that way you can focus on getting your project done and not figuring out how to calculate last month. Now, Kyle, can you go back to the random section for just a minute? Because I wanted to point out something. You know, as Kyle mentioned, we added some nice new things here in the random category. So if you needed a random first name, a random gender, the reason why we added these is that there's a couple reasons. There's been a couple requests from customers of why they needed this. The first is, as Kyle was saying, if you're dealing with a test system and you're just trying to kind of test, you know, what's going on, maybe you want to put in a name and see if it's pulling up any results, you can do that. But really, this is handy for those who want to do regression testing on their software. Maybe you build software for a living and you want Foxtrot to put in some fake data. And you don't want to use live customer information because you don't want to be slinging around real-world Social Security numbers or other risky identifying information. So you can have Foxtrot essentially generate data out of thin air, and you never have to worry about, oops, I accidentally put some data into a live system or expose some of our customers' information. So by adding this, it gives you kind of the freedom to not worry about how am I going to go generate some fake data. Foxtrot can do it directly in the script, and it can do it millions of times if you need it to. Every time it runs and you ask for a random first name, it's going to give you a brand new random first name.
Even as I hop in and out of here, these names change. The last set of new tokens we've added are just information on contacting support. So if you forget the web address or you're not sure where to go to get in touch with us, we have this information in the application view. So you always have our email, our phone number, and our support website also. All right, so we've added a couple new formulas too. I'm going to jump into a few of these. We have some new math formulas and some new text formulas. I'm going to start with the new math formulas. More, and just jump down to some of these. So we've added the average. You've always been able to do this, but previously you would have to use the calculation to add a certain number of tokens or numbers together and then divide by that count. Well, now you're able to add these tokens or these numbers. You know, as Foxtrot will take the average of these 5 numbers above. We've added the opportunity to be able to do simple math functions like add, divide, and subtract, and multiply. Previously, these were in the calculation section. So if you ever needed to add a value to a counter, you would have had to save the variable, go use the calculation, and then come back into the formula builder. But now you can do it all within your formula builder. Median. We'll take the median of a certain set of values. So if I wanted to find the middle number of some of these, it'll give me 9.5. We have a couple of different ways that you can tell it's tie break. The default will be to take the average. So if there's only 4 values, we're going to take the average of the middle 2, which would be 12 and 7. You can tell it to keep the larger number if you wanted to, or to keep the smaller number. Some of these newer text ones make it a lot easier to do things like parsing data. So we have this left of and right of down below here, which will essentially just take either the left of or the right of some text. So if I had a name, and let's say I wanted the first name, Actually, say I wanted the last name. I would have to take the right of a space to give me the last name. I could do the same thing using the left of to give me the first name. Just give me everything to the left of that space. So it makes it a little easier to do these parsings. And the last one I want to go over is the between. If I wanted my middle initial, I can just take everything in between the two spaces, and it'll give me the J. Another one of our new features is the file and the folder exist action. So you can tell whether or not a certain file or a directory exists. You just pop in the path that you want for the file to check, and you select the variable for it to store it in. And it's going to evaluate it as a true or false. So I'm asking right now if there's a new text document on the desktop, which will evaluate as false. Once I create one, that should change to a true, which it does. Another new feature is the download file action. So if you know a URL that some file exists on, you can tell it to download somewhere. So right here, I actually have it downloading version 905 to the desktop.
Yeah, that's a really handy feature. One of our customers, who happens to be a bank, wanted to download the latest OFAC file from the government website, and it's a static download link. It's the same every single month they download it, and rather than trying to figure out how do I write a script to go out to the website, find the download link, click the download link, save where it's going to go, we said, you know what, let's just give you a power action just to do that for you. So you notice it's downloading a file, and we're not necessarily even going to that website. All you need to know is what is the download link for that file. You give that to Foxtrot, and we go out and download that for you. So it just makes scripting, that type of feature, just so much easier. And again, it's just all about speed of scripting, making it easier for you, making it faster for you to script so you can move on and get your projects done.
Okay, next one I want to talk about is the question action. Okay, so earlier I took some screenshots. Later, I can ask myself a question on whether or not that screenshot we took is me or not. The way we built that was up here in display, where you have your show message and show prompt. You can set up your custom question that you want to ask. You can choose from a predefined set of answers that we've given you. So things like approve, deny, keep or reject, yes, no, cancel. Or if you'd like, you can always put in some custom answers. And you'll save these answers to some variable. I got question response already.
Kyle, can you bring that question up again?
Yeah.
So if you notice on that question, I'm going to execute it. So the custom answers that Kyle specified are now presented to the user in the form of buttons. So you get to define what those are, and the neat thing about that is that you could actually pull those responses directly from your database. You can have as many responses as you want. Kyle, can you go and edit that action, and maybe instead of putting those, put in a list of states, maybe like Florida, Georgia.
Up here?
Yeah, so just put in maybe 6 or 7 state abbreviations there. So let's say, for instance, you say, hey, you know, I've got this insurance claim. I need to ask someone what state it should be routed to for handling. So you can customize this list of answers. There you go. And then go ahead and hit OK. And you'll notice that as soon as you exceed 5 responses, the buttons swing over to the right side and become a list. And as that list grows, that list can become scrollable. So you can have virtually an unlimited number of answers available. And the reason why that's nice is because not only can you ask them a series of questions and have a series of responses. Before, you could only have like a yes/no type of answer. You can have many different responses now, so you can actually have your script branch off in many different directions based on what the user picks at this point in time. And in addition to that, you can also infuse the screenshot that you took with a screenshot action, placing it on this screen. So you might say, please review the information you see here. Does this meet what you're looking for? And then you can have them pick the chosen response. You can also have multiple screenshots all together here. So you might have a screenshot from 2 different applications, and you might present them together here and ask for visual confirmation that everything looks acceptable, and then they can hit whatever response they need to move it through the process, reject it, and send it back. Maybe you hit a button to have it automatically email a manager with a question, or maybe you hit another button to escalate to another department for handling. There's all kinds of things that you can do, and it's really limited to your own imagination.
Just going off of what Aaron mentioned, we have more options up here at the top. So if most of all these states belong in Georgia, you can set your default answer to Georgia so that if the question pops up and you just hit an enter key, it automatically knows to select Georgia. And just like in your prompts or your message boxes, you're used to adding custom tokens. Aaron mentioned you can add images. So we have, I clicked on that wand over to the right there. We have now the images token. And from here we will just go browse out to our image path and click add to expression. That image will now be inserted into our script like this question has it. All the way at the bottom, we've added some detection actions. So the detect browsers you might find handy if you're working with a browser that maybe opens up another embedded browser at some point. The detect browsers just tells Foxtrot, refresh everything that we're able to see. That way, if anything changes, we know how to interact with it.
As many of you know, Foxtrot keeps track of all the windows that are open at all times. But every now and then you'll have a situation where you're dealing with an application who pops up a window, and for some reason Foxtrot doesn't see that window. And what we found is some of these applications, those windows either take a long time to actually initialize and become available, essentially meaning that Foxtrot doesn't add it to the list because that window is too slow. Well, what we've done is we've empowered you to be able to put a detect browser or detect emulator or Excel action in your script, and what that does is it tells Foxtrot to go around right at the time that action is executed and say, let me look for all the open browser windows. Well, what that does is it allows you to kind of deal with these applications whose windows are slow to pop up or that aren't detected by Foxtrot in the past. By adding one of these, you tell Foxtrot, hey, Foxtrot, go ahead and look right now because we know it's on the screen. Foxtrot will do its normal search around all the running windows, pick up those extra windows that were slow before, and now that it knows about it, you can continue writing those scripts. So the bottom line is it allows you to deal with those finicky pop-up windows that you may not have been able to deal with in the past.
One of our bigger new feature is the FTP technology, which is brand new to version 9. We have a whole new FTP section of certain things you can do on an FTP server. So if I have this text document, for instance, let's make that a little smaller. And I just type test in there, just so that we know something's in there. I'll hit save. What I'm going to have Foxtrot do is upload this file to my server, delete it from my machine, and then download it again. So whenever we're dealing with an FTP server, first thing we're going to have to do is create a connection. Now, it's a little different than creating a connection that you're used to with an emulator or with an Excel workbook because there's nothing to target. So we're just going to go directly to Add Connection. And in here, you'll be able to put your host name, your username, and your password. And of course, you can tie it to a specific letter that you'd like. So I already have a connection established here. First thing that we can tell Foxtrot to do is log on. When we're logged on, you'll see that we are connected and we are at the root folder. We can create folders using the FTP create folder action. And notice if you want to change your connection letter, you can change it up here. You just give it a folder name or bring it in from one of your resources. And then what you'll have to do is you'll tell Foxtrot to go to a specific folder. And here I just told it to go right to this testing folder. If you want it to go back to the root folder, you can definitely do that. Or if you have some subfolder that you know you want it to go to, you have that option as well. So now we're in the testing folder. So I then use the FTP upload file action to tell it to upload the new text document and just overwrite whatever's in there. I use our existing delete file action to get rid of it from our desktop, which now it's gone. And the last couple things I did is I said, well, now I want to download that file. So I just chose the file I want to download from that folder, being the testing folder, and where to save it to. I told it to save it back to the desktop. Which actually came in over here. And if I open this up, this should say testing or test.
So good demonstration, Kyle. One of the things that we want to mention is that this is not a full-blown FTP client. That's not what this is designed for. These are actions that we've added so that you can infuse FTP steps into your process. So if you want to download a file from an FTP site, that's the first thing that you do every day before you use that file to go off and do your work. Foxtrot can now do that for you. This is especially useful if you've got lights out type of scripts that run on a schedule. Every midnight you needed to download this file from a remote branch of your company and you need to do something with it. That's what this is for. If you are looking for a full-blown FTP client, there's several third-party options available, but that's not what this is intended to do. So as you've seen here, we have the ability to log on, upload and download files, rename, switch folders, and log off. So all the rudimentary things that you need to be able to add FTP steps to your automated process. Well, we have a few other things that we'd like to demonstrate. We're going to switch gears here for a minute. And we're going to demonstrate some new things that we've added that we're especially excited about, especially for those of you who write scripts for emulator screens or Excel, and also when you deal with web tables on your web application. So I'm going to show you a couple examples here. So I'm going to just pull up an example of an HTML table. So many of you deal with tables in your web application. Maybe it's the result of a query. Maybe it's information that's tied to an account. You pull up some type of account, and there's information displayed in a table-type format. Well, many of you are used to using the highlight feature, where essentially Foxtrot highlights a cell in the table, and you essentially move that highlight around, and you use it to kind of go through the table and locate and interact with each individual cell of that table in a dynamic fashion. Well, with Foxtrot, when I drag and drop to the cell, you'll see the screen appear here, and you'll notice that this looks a little bit different than what you're used to seeing. Before, you'd have to actually go in and switch it from dealing with the target to dealing with the table in order to be able to do those highlights. Well, essentially what we've done has made this a little bit easier to get to, so that if you do need to change it, you just click this once and switch to what you want to deal with, and we'll allow you to change. Now notice, every time I change that, if I want to deal with the exact target, it shows me a picture of that. If I want to switch over to table, it actually shows me the entire table. But one thing that's nice about the way that we've changed this is now when you target the cell in the field, or the cell in the table, where you want to begin your highlight, you no longer have to touch anything up here. The start highlight is right at your fingertips. So all you have to do is start your highlight, hit OK, and you'll notice that Foxtrot made sure that was scrolled into view and it highlighted that cell. Now I'm going to pause for a moment because some of you have had experiences where the yellow highlight does not appear, even though Foxtrot appeared and said that it did highlight it. Well, since we've invented this highlight technology, there have been several new generations of web applications and how they're built, and essentially the yellow highlight was blocked from being displayed. So we've reinvented the wheel on this highlight technology so that our highlight will show up in a much higher percentage of the time. So in the past, you may have experienced the highlight does not show up in the header row of a table. Well, now, as you see here, Foxtrot shows that highlight in a consistent manner. Now, once you have that highlight there, I can drag and drop to that highlighted field. And the next thing that comes up, you'll see that Foxtrot automatically connects to the highlighted target. In the past, you had to manually go and remember to switch it to this option, which was really inconvenient, and sometimes it would actually cause you to write your scripts incorrectly. So we made Foxtrot smarter. If you target that highlighted cell, Foxtrot will automatically lock onto it, and you can move your highlight. So it's right at your fingertips. So now, one of the other actions that we've added is a clear highlight. Well, why would we add a clear highlight? Well, some of you have asked, hey, EnableSoft, we use the highlight to go through the screen to deal with what we need to do, but then we need to take a screenshot or a picture of what the screen looks like. And we really don't want that highlight to be in the picture because maybe the manager doesn't like that, or maybe it confuses our auditors why that's highlighted in yellow. So we just want that yellow to go away since it's not really part of the program anyways, so that we can kind of clean things up and put them back to the way they were. So you can use a clear highlight action to achieve that. In addition, if you happen to close Foxtrot and there were any yellow highlighted cells left on any of your web applications, Foxtrot's going to automatically remove those as Foxtrot is closing. So we kind of clean up behind ourselves now. In the past, the yellow highlight would stay on the screen, and sometimes it would cause a little bit of confusion. So we made sure that that's not a confusing point anymore. So now I can come here and, for example, pick Move Highlight. You're used to seeing this. You can move right or left, up or down. And when I do that, we see that the yellow highlight has moved in our table. And just to demonstrate the clear highlight, I can choose that and pick our clear highlight action. And there it's gone. So that's the first enhancement we were excited to share about the table highlighting. For those of you who've used table highlights, you'll see that the time it takes to script is much, much faster. Our beta testers are telling us that they're writing scripts in a quarter of the time because of how it automatically wires up and builds their scripts. So that's really nice. Okay, we're going to switch over for a second here to Excel and show you some of the new Excel features we have available. So many of you have used our Excel targeting technology that we released a few versions back. Many of you have found that it's a great tool in your toolbox, but we've also observed that it does take some time to write a script. It works, but it's a little lengthy. It takes a lot of time. So we've reinvented the wheel here. We kind of launched our next generation of Excel targeting technology, and let me demonstrate that for you. You'll notice that when you target Excel, it looks very, very similar to what you're used to seeing. But many of you have noticed right off the bat that there's a More Targets menu that we put right above the workbook, allowing you easy access to all the common components of the workbook. So this is nice. So in the past, if you wanted to tie it to the current cell, which happens to be E8 right now, you'd have to do a lot of steps to get there. Well, now you can simply come up here, go down to current cell, and we automatically wire it up to the current cell. You can also conveniently change that right from here if you needed to modify that. So it's really quick to get to things. So before, if you wanted to create a new workbook, you'd have to know to go to the title bar of Excel. And sometimes that's not the easiest thing to remember. So what we've done is we put it right here on the menu so that everything is advertised, so you are always aware of everything that's available. So now if I go to Excel, you can come in here and pick, I want to come in here and arrange the workbooks or create a workbook or open a workbook. And so it just reminds you of all the pieces that are available when you're dealing with these workbooks. Because there's a lot of things Foxtrot can do, and we want to make sure that you are aware and are using all of its capabilities. So likewise, those of you who use an emulator on a daily basis, there was a similar scripting experience where there were things that you had to, several steps you had to go through to target certain things of an emulator screen. Well, now you'll notice the More Targets menu is here as well. So it's a very consistent feel. So as you are familiar with this new menu and you see it, you'll be encouraged to kind of go up and use it because it's the same experience no matter what you're targeting. And we're going to be introducing this menu more and more and add more handy things at your fingertips. So if I want to deal with the current cursor position, I can just come right to it and begin building my action. So that's the end of all the new features enhancements. What we're going to be doing today is opening up the QA. We have a question and answer section inside of the GoToWebinar window. We're going to take a few-minute break, and we got about 15 minutes left in today's meeting, so we're going to take the next 15 minutes to do Q&A, and then we'll make sure that everyone has a 3 o'clock break to break off if you need to, and then we can continue any other conversations you'd like to have after the break. So we're going to give a 2-minute recess. We're going to collect these questions, and we'll be right back and start discussing them. Thank you, everyone. We have an overwhelming response in our question window. We're going to try to get to as many of these as we can. I'm really excited to see such great questions. It shows that you guys are really using this stuff and are excited about the new features. So I'm just going to jump in and hand pluck a few of these. First question was, is this webinar going to be recorded? Yes, the webinar will be recorded in video format. That will be emailed out to everyone in participation today. And included in that email will be a list of all the questions that we received, including unanswered ones that we don't quite get to, so that you have all the questions, all the answers. And we'll also provide a download link so that you can get this new version in your hands right away. In addition to that, we're also going to include some information about our new services department that we're putting together. We're going to be offering professional services for script writing assistance, advanced training, and a lot more in that area as well. So if you have any questions about that, you can post those questions as well. Okay, we had one question. If Foxtrot is running in a virtual machine, you connect with RDC. The problem is Foxtrot would stop if you minimize that window. We actually have a solution for that. That's actually not something that we change or can control within Foxtrot, but there is a Windows registry change that we can recommend to you, and that would solve that problem. We've helped several customers solve that in the past. Someone asked if we're going to be adding any new supported emulators. We have several supported emulators today. We support a dozen or so emulators. We do have plans to add more. If you have a specific emulator that you need, we would love to speak with you and make sure that we have those questions answered. But one of the things that we do support is Rumba. Someone said, hey, I use Rumba. Do you support Rumba? Yes, we do. In fact, Rumba was the emulator that we used in today's demo. Though it's a little bit older version, it'll still work. Someone asked if the download file action can include logon information. It cannot, unless you can include that information in the URL itself. That's not something that you do. If you have to log into the website before you can download the file, that file is kind of safeguarded behind that login. Therefore, Foxtrot will not be able to download that file. So you would have to log in using Foxtrot. Foxtrot could do those login steps and then use the download file action. Good questions about our new FTP features. Someone asked if we support secure FTP sessions, which would include SSH or SSL. This first version of the FTP, we do not have that feature. That is a very popularly requested enhancement, which we are currently working on in our backlog. But today, it only supports standard FTP on port 21. But keep an eye out for future enhancements in that area. Someone asked if you could attach a file to the new email action. Yes, we can. One of the things that that we added for the email was the ability to do those attachments, because many of you said, hey, you know, that our beta tester said that the new screenshot action is really neat, but man, it sure would be great if I could email that picture to someone, because that's a really useful tool, especially if there's a problem on the screen that you may not know how to deal with in your script, and you just need someone to manually review that. You could instruct Foxtrot to take a picture of the entire screen if you needed to and email that to someone for manual follow-up. Someone asked if there's a problem with the action builder not showing up on the same screen as Foxtrot. Some of you might have seen that we actually had that problem today, mainly because we're dealing with an unusual computer setup for the webinar. But yes, actually in this version, the Action Builder does show on the same screen as the main FoxtrotOne window. So believe it or not, that is in there. It just didn't come into play today because of how our projector works. So if you have that problem, I would encourage you to upgrade, because that is an annoyance that won't be there anymore. Someone had mentioned that they really enjoyed the new variable feature. That's a problem that they were having, not being able to clear all the variables. They also made a comment about another feature, but they didn't mention what that was. Just kind of scrolling through here, making sure we don't miss anything here. A great question. Someone said, do our current scripts need to be converted? Really great question. If you have existing FoxtrotOne scripts, they do not need to be converted. Our FoxtrotOne product is completely backward compatible, so those scripts will continue to work and functioning exactly the same as they were before. The big advantage is that you can then utilize all the new technology that we are making available. If you have a Foxtrot LE script, which is the older product that works exclusively with the green screens, those scripts will only run in Foxtrot LE. Should you need assistance porting those over to the FoxtrotOne product, we do have services that we can offer to assist you with that. If you have that need, reach out to us and we'll be able to give you more information. There's also a lot of good enhancement requests in the question list here that aren't necessarily questions, but we're taking note of those, and certainly we'll be taking that back to our product design team and incorporate those. You know, there's nothing better than when our customers raise their hand and say, you know, it'd be really neat if you could give us this, because that would solve our problem. Because you know, at the end of the day, we could sit here and think up a lot of cool features, but what we really want to do is give you what you guys need to solve your real-world problems. We have several more that are still coming in here. What we'll do is take another 60-second break to let these questions come in so we can assemble these, and we'll see if we can continue answering those. We're coming up on the 3 o'clock mark. This would be a good time for those of you who do need to break away. Feel free to drop off, and just know that we'll be following up with an email with all the information here today. So give us about just another minute or two, and we'll field any last questions that we see come through the window here. Yes, someone's asking if there's a FoxtrotOne training guide. We do actually have a new FoxtrotOne training guide that we'll be glad to provide you. Another person asked if FoxtrotOne is compatible with green screens. Yes, it is. In fact, we introduced the technology a few versions back. You might be on an older version that does not have that capability. We would encourage you to upgrade. Guys, this version comes with your maintenance plan. There's no additional charge for it. So you call us. We'll give you the white glove treatment. You can sit back. We'll install it for you, answer any questions you have, and get you productive right out of the gate. Some of you are asking about if we're going to provide any updated videos. We actually have a laundry list of videos that we're putting together that we're going to be publishing here in the near future to help you keep up to date with all this new features that we put into these versions, and also to use as training tools so you can send those out to your team and keep up to date on that. So we're going to be starting a new video series here shortly. Many of you said, hey, I'm on version 9, but I don't see some of these features yet that you shared today. The latest version available on our website is 9.0.5. We actually are going to be coming out with the newer version that includes all of these features this week, so you will be able to download that, and the download link will be included in the follow-up email you'll receive shortly after the meeting. Someone asked if Foxtrot can run on a clustered drive. That's a question that I'd be glad to do some research for you. I don't have that answer off the top of my head. We'll reach out to you. If you provide your contact information, we'll be sure to follow up with you and get you some more information on that. Someone asked if, with the new Excel targeting, can we simply target and copy the entire workbook to a data file? You know, that's a great enhancement. That is not a feature that's available in this version. Certainly a feature that we'll put on our to-do list. And if any of you have that need, I'd encourage you to post that to the chat window or the question panel so that we can keep track of that. But that's a great enhancement request. Okay, there's still some more enhancement requests and bug reports coming in. Many of these bugs have been already fixed in the new version. Really, probably the easiest thing for you is if you're not sure if it's a bug or a feature, I would encourage you to upgrade. Get onto the latest version. See if that will solve the problem. If not, we will be glad to work with you. Our support team is just a phone call away. As many of you know, when you call in, our biggest joy is to help you solve these problems. So if you have those questions, please email us. And any of those that have been posted here today will not go unnoticed. Even though we don't get to all of them, we will be sure to provide an answer in the follow-up email. Or we might follow up with you directly should you have some specific need that you're asking about. Well, thank you, everyone. We're getting to the end here. We'd like to thank you today on behalf of Kyle and myself. We want to thank you for joining us. And if you do have any enhancement requests or need assistance downloading the new version once that's available, feel free to email us. All of our contact information, video, and again, the questions and answers today will be included in the follow-up email. So we look forward to communicating with you soon. Enjoy the day.